Good evening, everyone. This is Chaos. I will be trying a few things differently today. First of all, the story today will be from the Magic the Gathering universe from Wizards of the Coast. As usual, I will leave a link in the description for the original piece. The other thing I will be doing is using the innate video editor that YouTube offers. This should allow me to actually take a breath between paragraphs, allowing for a smoother listening experience overall. I also wasn't satisfied with the quality of the Proctor Road video I made the other day, so I will be redoing that as well. Sorry the story came so late in the evening, but I hope you enjoy it. Today's story is titled Odric, Master Tactician. When Odric last looked out the window, it had been early afternoon. Now a cold mist had settled on Thraben, and the city was cloaked in evening shadows. Where is the moon? Odric's arm jerked involuntarily, nearly upending his ink jar. No, he reminded himself. It no longer matters. The phases of the moon were no longer predictors of life and death now that Avacyn had returned and cleansed the world. Or at least begun to. He glanced across the oak table at Greta, his lieutenant, who looked surprised by his sudden movement. Sir Odric, Master Tactician, commander of the Gavany Riders, and recipient of the Moon Silver Accommodation, didn't startle easily. Sir? Greta asked. Darkness fell, he told her. She glanced out the window and she saw similar emotions play across her features. We've spent too many years as prey. Too many years spent cowering in the shadows. There's still no sign of Ludwig, Greta continued, scanning the parchment. A miller spotted him near Estwald, but he'd moved on before the Cathars could detain him. So the hunt continues. Just as the thought of the mad alchemist made his head ache, Odric leaned back and pressed his palms against his temples. This was a temporary assignment, one he had requested in hopes of getting an angel's-eyed view of Innistrad. Every regiment sent him daily dispatches of what they encountered in the field. From these reports, Odric was piecing together where the church's power was still being threatened. But he didn't enjoy sitting in a leather chair in a cathedral chamber. He was a battlefield man, much better suited to combat maneuvers than negotiating the politics of the Vaccinian church. What of your friends around Hanweir? Odric asked, and was rewarded with a slight smile from the deadly serious Greta. She'd led an assault against the legion of ghouls ravaging the moorlands, a success that had earned her the promotion to second-in-command. We're hunting down the last stragglers. Gisa is being transported from the Riders' lockup to Thraben next week. Triple the escort, Odric said. She's caused enough trouble in my lifetime. Greta nodded and scanned the last dispatch. Only a few more days and Odric's administrative duties in Thraben would be done. His time here had been valuable. He knew that demons were still on the loose, but Avacyn herself was focused on the Hell Vault escapees. Necromantic activity still plagued the moorlands, but nothing like the heyday of Gisa and Geralf's tyranny. Sigarda's forces were hunting the perpetrators of the Nephalia massacre. The vampires had all but slunk back to Stencia. Someday soon, I will purge that province myself. But first I must be sure that Avacyn's blessings hold. The mayor's son in Torbach tumbled down a riverbank and broke his leg. Odric sighed. Does the mayor of Torbach truly request the church's assistance to fix the boy's leg? It says he fell fleeing a werewolf. He later died of fever and gangrene. As Odric pushed himself to his feet, it felt as if a steel trap had closed around his stomach. Every morning since the curse meat had rid the land of the lycanthrope curse, he'd fallen to his knees praising Avacyn's blessing. But in his heart, he doubted. What if the Wolfir returned to a murderous state? What if the abominations that had slaughtered so many of his kin had returned? Rouse our regiment, he told Greta. It seems our day in Thraben have come to an abrupt end. The mayor of Torbach was a pompous, red-faced administrator who took power after Avacyn returned. A sheep in fancy clothes, Odric thought, not a leader during the darkest hours. The mayor had been ranting at them ever since they arrived in his chamber. Greta shifted uncomfortably beside Odric, no doubt wondering why he was letting this tirade go on so long. I demand to know. What is this new devilry? Werewolves walk even during the half-moon? Did you not promise that this curse was lifted from us? These Wolfir may slaughter us even during the daylight. Sir, there is no reason to believe that a Wolfir, Odric said. It had slaughtered the widow of Bitterheart Hill, the mayor interrupted. Destroyed her cottage just last night, and took its time under her roof.
Maybe it slumbered a bit, going to cook a hock of meat in her fireplace.
The creature was in her cottage? Odric asked.
This vile creature is terrorizing my village. Where are the angels? The Cathars waste time building bridges and trimming apple trees and...
One more question, Odric interrupted. Has it attacked other cottages, or just the widows?
Cottages? No, but... my son... he was just a boy.
Odric laid his hand on the mare's shoulder. At this touch, the man abruptly stopped speaking, and tears brimmed in his brown eyes. We will find the monster that killed your son, and put its head on a pike, Odric assured the mare, who had lost his bluster and seemed to have no more words for him. Odric and Greta found their own way back to the street where their horses waited.
He acted as if it was all our fault, Greta said angrily.
He's a grieving man, Odric replied. A man who has lost a son to a werewolf, he thought. Just as I have. As they rode toward the edge of the village, the red sun dropped low to the horizon. Above, a sliver of pale moon appeared in the indigo heavens. The phases of the moon once had been Odric's guiding hand. The shape of the moon would figure into his battle tactics as much as supply lines and the morale of his Cathars. Odric spent years watching the night sky, noting how the moon touched the world in unexpected ways. Some seemed trivial. The leaves of the maple curled downward during a full moon. Others were crucial to survival. Ghouls moved quicker during a new moon. A waxing moon brought unnatural fighting among the rank and file. With Avicen's curse mute, Odric secretly felt he had lost one of his tactical advantages. The moon was playing new games, and Odric had yet to learn the rules.
What are your thoughts?
Greta asked over the thud of the horse's hooves. I knew of the widow who was killed. They called her the Bitter-Heart Witch. Remember how she stayed in the cottage? Something about her attracted the monster. We'll set a trap near there. As they quickened their horses and made toward camp, Odric's eyes fixed on the pattern of mist around the meek sliver in the sky. Whatever evil was now manifesting itself, it would stop in the shadow of the widow's cottage. He would mount its head on the gates of Thraben. By midnight, there was no moon at all. He and Greta lay in the undergrowth at the edge of the clearing. The only light came from a witch's bane orb, a magical ward against curses that hovered at the edges of the trees. The spells was the widow's handiwork, from a time before she'd been outcast by the villagers as a witch. Odric had poured the blood of the widow on the ground below the orb. Blood he'd taken from her lifeless corpse in the catacombs of the local church. The strange thing was that when he viewed her corpse, he'd seen no signs of violence on her. There was no evidence she'd been killed by a werewolf attack, which Odric had assumed after talking with the mayor. She looked peaceful enough to have died of old age. A hooting call broke the night's silence. He recognized it as Cathar's signal that something had passed through the perimeter of scouts he'd placed around the grove. He glanced at Greta, and she silently stood up and disappeared into the shadows. Odric moved into a crouching position, waiting for the second signal which would confirm if it was natural or unnatural. The signal came again, urgently. Unnatural, then. Odric saw it before he heard it. A shadow much taller than the average man stretched across the clearing. He'd fought countless werewolves, and none had moved with such quiet deliberation. Odric glanced up at the inky sky, suddenly doubting his strategy, but the monstrosity had entered the clearing and was loping toward the scent of the widow's blood. Whatever was approaching, there was no time to question the plan. Fear holds no place in faith's battle plan. Odric shouted to the Cathars in the treetops, who cast down the heavy net, sending the creature's massive bulk onto the forest floor. Odric sprinted toward it as he struggled under the ropes. He unsheathed his sword as he ran, ready to slice the ropes and neck in one blow.
"Wait!"
screamed Greta, attempting to intercept her commander.
"Wait! It has an axe!"
Odric froze, seeing the massive weapon on the ground behind the monster. Then he saw the arm. A human arm. A hand. and human eyes peering out of a haggard face crisscrossed with sickly black veins. "In Avacin's name," Odric thundered, "what are you?" "I'm weak and cursed and no threat to you," it said. "I am Garrick Wildspeaker." The guttural voice infuriated Odric. Every corpse that had been mutilated by a werewolf flashed through his memory. He would never forget the raw carnage of the attacks and the senseless rage that left human bodies in bloody tatters. The only way Odric could comprehend those murders is if it was done by a mindless beast. Mindless beasts don't have language or a voice to speak it, and never a name. Garrick Wildspeaker. Even when Odric killed werewolves in human form, he never spoke their names. In his mind, the curse stripped them of any human identity they once possessed. Odric bashed the blunt end of his sword against the monster's temple, hearing the crack of skull as it shattered under the weight of his blow. It slumped to the ground. He yanked the net off the monster and grabbed a handful of its long matted hair. He yanked it back to expose the bare throat where lifeblood still pulsed through its unnatural veins. "Wait!" Greta was at his shoulder. Odric lifted his sword, one blow to sunder the head from the body.
"It's not a werewolf, sir. Avacin's blessings didn't fail us."
He wanted its head. "I'll throw it at the feet of Avacin and scream the name of every person murdered in her absence."
"Let us bring it to Thraben alive. Leave the days of slaughter behind us. It's a new day in Innistrad."
He wanted to scream at her, too. She'd fought the same wars and lived in the same grisly world as he. But unlike him, her conscience was untarnished. She's still hopeful. Greta's compassion would kill her someday soon. Odric let go of the monster and sheathed his sword. Drag him and tie him down. It's a long road back to Thraben. Let Avacin measure the worth of his life. I hope you enjoyed listening this evening. Once again, that was Odric Master Tactician from Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering. The author was Jenna Helland. Until next time, Chaos.